Hello, this is Jerry Mitchell, and I'm back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have X says it's withholding accounts and tweets in India to obey orders by the authoritarian government to suppress farmers' protests. And that's from TechCrunch.com, posted by Patom13. And I like what Sam Slate said here. I, for one, am glad Elon owns Twitter so bullshit like this actually gets reported. This happens every day on Reddit. And I said, agreed. Most of the DNC left are completely fine with censorship as long as it's not Elon doing it. So that's my thoughts there. Then we have update. The MS Society has now tripled down on their choice to kick out a 90-year-old woman named Fran who volunteered with them for 60 years because she asked what pronouns were from Spike Cohen on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, it's a big reason that I never share my pronouns with people out of principle. To me, it represents compelled speech, and that's something that I personally am very against. I personally think I'm for freedom of association, so if people want to disassociate with someone for any reason, I think they should be able to. But with that being said, I'm free to call out that I think it's not a good reason, like I'm doing here, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have how you can tell propaganda from journalism. Let's look at Tucker Carlson's visit to Russia from Patom13, and that's from the conversation.com. And I said Reddit would say it's only journalism when it's propaganda. I agree with. Everything's kind of propaganda to some extent, I would say, especially in the age of social media. But I definitely think, if you agree with it, you definitely are going to be partial to it, regardless of what it is. Then we have tax records reveal the lucrative world of COVID misinformation from WashingtonPost.com by Patom13. And I personally didn't comment or read that one, but if people want to think if people want to grift using COVID misinformation, I think they should be able to. If people want to believe COVID information is actually COVID misinformation, I should be able to, believe whatever you want and grift with whatever you want. I don't really care. Then we have what we know about the death of non-binary teen Next Benedict, another victim of libs of TikTok, from Vice.com by Patom13, and I said, this is the Nashville shooting from last year, but for the left. They're going to milk the hell out of it. Reason magazine has an article pretty much stating that the New York Times immediately used it to push its agenda. They might not have been killed because of they were non-binary, but rather it might have just been a school fight. But they immediately used it to push the agenda that it's libs of TikTok's doing stochastic terrorism, and that's why she needs to go to prison. And that's not something that I think is very libertarian. I personally think if libs of TikTok wants to say what they want to say, they should be able to. And even if you disagree with it, they still should be able to say it. It might lead to violence, but a lot of the left rhetoric leads to violence as well, and they would never call themselves out on that, and that's always important to remember. People always give themselves a pass when it comes to their own rhetoric, but when it comes to the opposite side, they never give them a pass, and that's why I think we need to support free speech, even if it could lead to violent stuff like this. This might have been from violent rhetoric, but even if it was, I would say that doesn't change. That doesn't mean we should start censoring people. Then we have Supreme Court rejects Marjorie Taylor Greene appeal of mask mandate from MinusTouch.com by Patom13. And I personally can see it both ways here. If the bosses of the House, Speaker of the House, wants to have mask mandate, I think they should be able to. And that's it'll be like the same for any other job. But with that being said, when you don't let elected officials serve because they won't follow one of your policies, that means you're increasingly censoring. You're kind of censoring them, and I don't think that's good either. I think it's like, who makes the rules for the rule makers? That's the question you have to ask here. And personally, I think that's why we shouldn't even have rule makers. We should just let everyone be their own rule maker and leave it at that. Then we have Daryl George, Texas judge rules school district can restrict the length of male students' natural hair, from CNN.com by Frosty Slowman. And yeah, I personally would disagree with this. I think people should be able to do whatever they want with their own bodies, and that's why I personally don't really care for this. But with that being said, freedom of association on that. So I guess if the school wants to do that, I guess they should be able to, and that would fall under freedom of association as well. Then we have LP National takes off its mask, shows bootlicker underneath. And that was a tweet that from LP National by Whittling Down. He's since deleted their account, but I think I remember them posting this. But anyway, the tweet was it's Alexei Navalny. It says jail for illegal activities in the West. It shows them crying, and then it says Julian Assange jail for exposing U.S. war crimes in the West is just like May. And I said, I get their point. A lot of people in the U.S. do seem to care more about Navalny than Assange. I think the better thing to do would have been to capture Navalny as political prisoner Russia and Assange as political prisoner USA. Then we have, if you criticize Joe Biden, then it means you love Trump, says this person who is very broken from Glenn Greenwald on Twitter, and I posted that, and that was him quote tweeting an interview from John Fetterman on MSNBC from a tweet out by Aaron Rupar. John Fetterman on MSNBC on Dems criticizing mine. You might as well just wear your MAGA hat because you're now helping Trump. And I said that seems to be a lot of politics. Feels like a lot of politics is like that. It's either you are with us or you are against us. And that's my thoughts there. Then we have new Tennessee Republican, he's not a new governor, but it says new. Then Tennessee Republican Governor Bill Lee has signed a bill allowing public officials to refuse to perform same-sex marriages from the Calvin Coolidge Project on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, I'm 50-50 on this. I don't think that people should be forced to do things that they don't want to, but I could see an argument for that. Sometimes you might have to do stuff that you don't like when you were on the job as well. Ultimately, I do think, if the employer wants to issue accommodations for people of faith who don't want to perform same-sex marriages, I think they should be able to. But with that being said, sometimes when you're on the job, you have to do stuff you don't like, and that's something I think it's important to remember as well. Then we have a trans person bought a gun to defend themselves, and just like that, conservatives didn't like the Second Amendment anymore from Flimsy L5563, and that's crosswords from the white people Twitter subreddit. And that's a tweet from Libs of TikTok that said, LGBTQ activists suggest he will get a gun because his rights as a trans person are being taken away. This is a lie being sold to trans people, which leads them to violence, and now we are seeing a trans terrorist epidemic. The LGBTQ movement is turning activists into violent extremists. And I said, disagree with Libs of TikTok here. The Second Amendment is for everyone. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have a hospital suing to move a quadriplegic 18-year-old to a nursing home. She says no, from NPR.org by Frosty Slawman. And I definitely think, if someone doesn't want to move, I don't think they should be forced to do so. And I would support their decision to not move. But that being said, if someone does have the economic capital, social capital, or forced to move them, I guess that's how it is sometimes. And sometimes you just have to cope with it. That's my thoughts there. Then we have, hey, I wonder how the LP/Mises Caucus is doing from Anarcho Federation. And that's, they linked to a tweet from Matt Ray, who tweeted, worth both the wait and every penny. Do yourselves a favor and profit from more than a half-century research in the art conspiracy of Mr. Irving at Irving. And that was for David Irving's new book, True Himmler. And it says that they are Austro-Libertarian at Mises in their bio. And he adds, Paleo-libertarianism is mythology, and Rothbard was clamoring radical individualism was compatible with paleo-conservatism. And I guess I kind of would agree with that, I think if people want to identify as libertarian fascists, I think they should be able to. With that being said, I think fascism is something that's inherently collectivist, and that's why I personally don't really care for it. Then we have moon landing. U.S. firm Intuitive Machines makes historic touchdown from BBC.com by Grass States Bada. And I said, just goes to show that we don't need NASA. We can have private enterprise do its job instead. Apparently NASA might have helped in this, but I definitely think, that since the private firm took the lead, I think it definitely shows you that NASA is increasingly obsolete and we could save money by cutting its funding or getting rid of it entirely. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, as humorless, self-righteous, insufferable, and mediocre as corporate journalists are, they still fare far better in all those metrics than university professors from Michael Malice on Twitter, and I posted that. And that was him quote tweeting a Roman Sharamata, professor at Case Western Reserve University. And they said, according to Trump, Russia defeated Hitler. The ignorance and stupidity of this man has no bounds. And that's, of course, wrong because, of course, the Soviet Union is one of the biggest factors that caused Hitler to lose World War II. And I said, and before, well, actually, that was the Soviet Union, not Russia. But, it just goes to show you that the intellectual class who thinks it can't be wrong are often wrong a lot. And historically, we didn't have a way to call them out on that, but now with social media, we can call them out on that, and that's why they, along with the corporate media, are increasingly obsolete, and I think may collapse entirely within our lifetimes, as we might come to see it. Then we have Heritage Foundation agenda to use conservative government to forcibly end recreational sex from Clorox, and that's a tweet from the Heritage Foundation who tweeted, "It just seems to me that a good place to start without a feminist movement would be a feminist movement against the pill, and for returning the consequentiality to sex. Conservatives have to lead the way in restoring sex to its true purpose and ending recreational sex and senseless use of birth control pills." And I personally would disagree with that. I personally think if people want to do birth control, that should be their prerogative and not that of the state. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we didn't get all the way there on January 6th. Trump booster pledges to end democracy and CPAC rant as Bannon cheers on from Media.com by Farah and Chimney. And I didn't comment on that one, but yeah, I personally don't really care for democracy. But with that being said, I think democracy is kind of my rule. But with that being said, I definitely don't think they're going to create a society with individual liberty for all. I think they'll just be the new tyrants, same as the old tyrants. And that's my thought on that issue. And we have Trump is now Navalny, and prosecutions in democracy is a lot different than persecution in Putin's Russia from theconversation.com by Patan Furchan. And I guess I would agree with that, Ultimately, I do think the U.S. is more like Russia than they make it out to be. With that being said, I definitely do think it is better than Russia when it comes to just general freedom, I would say. But, that doesn't mean it's perfect, and that we still need to hold the state accountable for, if it ever exceeds its bounds. And, for, putting Trump in jail would do that for a lot of people. I personally wouldn't really care. But, if people want to fight for Trump, if he goes to prison, I think they should be able to. With that being said, I don't think he's going to come and save you. Just look at what happened on January 6th, Then we have, when elites hypocritically demand special treatment, Donald, you gotta pay your bills. Trump begs for more time to pay his bills from boingboing.net by Patan Furchan. And Lizard K commented, I think Trump is sunk, circling the dream. MAGA gonna MAGA, and he's gonna end up with less votes in 2024 than 2020. I'll bet $1 on that. That's the sub's feelings. And I said, depends how much desperate people are and how much the media hypes up the election, in my opinion. Trump did get more votes in 2020 than he got in 2016, and also got, more higher percentage of the vote. So we'll have to see what happens there. Then we have Google's push to lecture us on diversity goes beyond AI from NY Post, and I posted that, and I said, I'm really glad people are calling Google out for this shit. People are clearly getting tired of the progressive id-Paul circle jerk, and hopefully that's on its way out soon. And I think, let's see if there's anything new. Doesn't look like it. I think we're going to wrap up there. I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.